Hey, and welcome back to the Me First Mindset Masterclass. We are on session 3 of 6, and today we're talking about energy leaks and boundaries. If you have not done session 1 and session 2 yet, please do those first because we really set a foundation for what the Me First Mindset is and what your core purpose is for your experience. If you are listening to this right now, it means that you are a space holder. You have created a message out of the mess that was your life. You had some challenge and you overcome it, and you are now creating an offering to the world where you get to help people get through exactly what you already went through. And that is great news. Now I'm going to help you become a better version of that by giving you tools to bookend your facilitation so that you don't burn out and that you don't feel overwhelmed and stressed, and that you can create sustainability and impact in your practice. We are gonna tie it all in here at the end of this on the 6th session, where I teach you how to do something called emotional hygiene and to self-resource more often, where you're creating a self-resourcing practice. Before we get there though, you need some tools. In this session, we're talking about a whole different topic. It's boundaries and energy leaks. This is so important to get right because as space holders, we often default on our internal boundaries. And we do that on purpose sometimes to allow people to get into the energy field with us so that we can help them walk them through their own healing. Remember, we're not healing anybody. We're not doing any work for anyone else. What we are doing is we're setting the foundation and the stage and giving the space and the energy for somebody else and the support for somebody else to do their own healing. So we give them tools to do their own healing, just like we give ourselves tools to prepare for that energy exchange. There is an energy exchange there. I know you feel that. And I want you to protect yourself. I want you to recognize your energy leaks and your boundaries. And I want you to be really big in your self-support, your self-resourcing here. You can't do it unless you know what boundaries are. You probably have a good idea of what a boundary is, and most likely it doesn't match what I think a boundary is. So let me start there. I use a term called circle boundaries from Pivot, the company that I work for and that I coach with. And it's a simple concept, but it really is revolutionary. Think about your boundary system like a ripple of water, a droplet of water. The closer you are into the boundary, the internal boundary, the less discernment you need about talking through your pre-processed information. You can really have an emotional experience. Those are people that are really trusted. And then the further out you get in your circles, the more discernment you have to have with your disclosure. Those are things that you probably have to have post-processed conversations about. You're not inviting people in your outer circles into your inner processing. That's an important thing to do. So we're going to talk about where your clients lie in your circle boundaries and how to have good boundaries with clients so that you don't have energy leaks. That is so important also. In talking about or thinking about boundaries, I'm going to give you a couple of prompts to think through, and I'd like for you to actually do the work of writing out your answers here so that you have a clear idea of what your boundaries are. Remember that boundaries are really an internal thing, just like almost everything else, especially here in the Me First mindset, because we want to be self-resourced. If I outsource my holding of boundaries to somebody else, I give them power over my boundary, and I don't want that. That's not what I want. I want to have ultimate power over my boundary. So all of my boundaries are internal commitments that I make with myself. This is my integrity here. This is what I am going to promise myself that I do or don't do in relationship to other people. When you're starting to recognize boundaries, ask yourself these few questions. What do I have time for? So this time aspect. What do I have energy for? It's different than time. How will saying yes or no to this affect my expression of authenticity, my being my authentic self? Can I have integrity in my offering if I say yes to this? What is safe to share? What is safe to expose or express or process? And what's not safe to share, expose, and process? This one I want you to take some time with, because sometimes as space holders, we will often pull on our own experiences to give insight into somebody else's process. And that can be okay sometimes. Of course, we don't want to make it all about us. And we certainly do not want to overly expose our own stories to people that are not ready or willing or shouldn't be hearing this part of our story. So this question of what is safe to express is important, because in your coaching container, your facilitator container, your space holding container, you want to be really clear about that boundary with your client. What will you share? How will you share it? What intentionality will you bring to your self-disclosure in those moments? And it really is important for you to share parts of your story that really make sense, but in a way where you're protecting yourself and your professionalism and your own integrity, while also giving your clients some vulnerability and meeting them in those vulnerability moments too. What is mine to heal versus what is theirs to heal? This is a great energy leak container. When you're working with clients, they inevitably will bring up your own stuff. You will see what is yours to heal in their lens. They should not know about that. That's my opinion. You can maybe differ in that opinion, but I'd like you to consider that when you do have an activation or a trigger, it is your responsibility as a space holder to deal with that after the fact. Let them have the space they need to deal with what they're doing, and definitely keep tabs on that. Really remember that that came up for you, because your other responsibility is to meet your own needs first. So going back on those triggers and being curious about them and self-repairing is going to be monumental to your sustainability on your impact. That's what we're trying to get here, right? So what is mine to heal? Having that awareness and understanding is important. You might have to go back after a session as your bookend and ask yourself, was this about them or was this about me? Am I feeling frustrated here? Why? What about this is mine to heal? Here's a great last question. Can I do this and still take care of myself first? Because we are always going to ladder it back to taking care of yourself first. You are no good to anybody else if you are not taking care of yourself first. And in fact, you are out of integrity with your offering if you are not taking care of yourself first. There is no time where you should be completely self-abandoning or betraying yourself for somebody else's benefit. That no longer is an offering. That is a trauma response. Hear me on this. That is no longer an offering. That's a trauma response. Say no for your benefit and for theirs. When you cannot execute in a way that takes care of you, find ways to communicate that with your clients. Hey, I love that you're asking me this question, and right now I don't have the capacity to answer it. Let me get back to you. Let's schedule something in the future, and then give yourself the opportunity to meet your needs first. Bookend it first and after. If you need time, take time. It's going to make all of the difference. Yes, I love it. I love that you're having this experience right now with me on the other side of the camera, where you're recognizing that your boundaries are your responsibility and that it does serve you and them. You and them. Important for you and them. So going back to this idea of circle boundaries, when we think about boundary systems, again, we have this inner circle, and then we have some of the circles that come out. I'm not going to use all the pivot language. If you want to know more about pivot language for relational circle boundaries for your relationships, that is something that you absolutely should do. You can ask me about it, or you can find out on Pivot's website. I'll put that link in the show notes below. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to adapt that for what we're doing here. So we have the closest circle and then the furthest circles. And I want you to recognize that your clients are going to be in your furthest circle. They have most discernment, most discretion when you are oversharing, when you're hopefully not oversharing, when you're sharing with them, you have the most discernment and discretion. One up above that is your aligned peers. So people that are also doing things that you're doing, other coaches, when you're networking, you might be able to share a little bit more with them. This is a track though. Aligned peer is the important part here, because not everybody is going to be aligned with your values. Not every coach is going to see it the same way. Not every coach is going to be subscribing to this idea of the me first mindset. And if you do post pre-process, actually, if you pre-process with these kinds of people, it'll just be like that henhouse talk where you're not getting any good feedback and you might feel really gross about it. So recognizing how your energy feels when you are sharing with aligned peers and readjust your boundaries on what you consider an aligned peer going forward. Okay, so going a little closer in, trusted mentors. Same kind of concept here. Choose your mentors wisely. So you can share more vulnerably with a trusted mentor than you can with an aligned peer. And of course, you can share with an aligned peer more than you can share with a client. So you can kind of see where those are coming in. Clients, aligned peers, trusted mentors. This is where you get your support from in your boundary system. When you're doing pre-processing work, especially talking about your own work, your own facilitation, your own space holding, choose your mentors and your aligned peers wisely. And then the innermost circle is reserved for your tethering. And what I mean by tethering is something bigger than you. That can be a spirit guide, it can be your idea of God, it can be your idea of your higher self, your higher powers, or your source. So this in pivot language is, we could consider that smallest spot there, the innermost circle, to be unconditional. And it's going to be the same for us here. So someone that can be completely unconditional with you can be yourself. Hopefully it is yourself. And then choosing a trusted mentor, surrounding yourself with aligned peers, and using all of those tiers of boundaries before you start talking with clients. Boundaries are to keep you safe and to keep and preserve the integrity of your offering. Clients will really need the most amount of discretion. Dial that in. Ask yourself those questions that we started with here to understand where your boundaries and your energy leaks are. Here's how you use this. First of all, you go through, you answer those questions. Second of all, you go through, anytime you feel like your boundaries are not quite holding, you go back and you redo it and you revisit it. So we're going to use that as a part of our self-resourcing ritual. And in session 6, we'll talk a little bit more about exactly how to use this as a part of your routine to make sure that you have integrity in your impact. If you haven't done that yet, go into the links below and make sure that you pick up your ebook. If you need more support, jump on the next mastermind where we talk through all of these resources and we really help each other out on how to use this in real time. And we do some of that pre-processing together. And you end up having aligned peers. If you're looking for more aligned peers, that's the way to do it. And if you haven't done this yet, like and subscribe to this channel because we do have a podcast that covers just this. People come on and talk about how they use the me first mindset and how it's changed their lives, how they've used that to catapult them into the most success that they've had in their businesses. All right, your next video is starting right now.